Now we'll look at exercise 4. Maybe we'll do this together. Now this one, we don't have the coordinate plane to help us, but we can still work on it. So I'm supposed to translate circle A and ellipse E along vector AB. So think about what vector AB is going to do to these shapes. It's going to move it straight up this distance. So translated circle A should be up here somewhere. Translated ellipse E should be right above itself right there. So let's go ahead and do it. I don't have a lot of field of view right now. So we're first using vector AB. So I'm going to trace AB. And let's get circle A here. Label it A. And ellipse E. So I'm going to go ahead and trace out ellipse E. And we'll go ahead and translate those. I'm going to move my paper down as I move my vector up. And looks like they're just overlapping a little bit. The circle is overlapping, the ellipse is not. Okay, so we moved them up. Let me go ahead and trace those in red since I have a red vector there. This is kind of hard to do, but it is an overlapping circle there. I think it comes up. Like some of you saw you could use. Okay, that doesn't look beautiful, but there we go. So along our vector AB, we get circle, call it A prime, right there. Translated figure A, call it A prime. Okay, and now we are going to translate, let's get our ellipse on there. Doesn't have to be beautiful. Okay, so there we go. So there's the A prime, and translated ellipse is E prime. Okay, now we're going to use this other vector here. Feel free to play this in double speed if it helps, if you know what you're doing here. Or even fast forward. All right, so we got a clean overhead sheet again. We're going to trace out vector CD, and this time we're going to translate A prime. So it's this circle and this ellipse. And we're going to translate it along vector CD, okay? So again, I'm focusing, when I do the translation, I focus on the vector, not the figures. I just let them move. Okay, so I've moved along that vector. Let's see where they ended up. Right over here. So I'll go ahead and trace this in blue. Something like that. And my ellipse is over here. Right up here somewhere. Okay, pretty close. Okay, so this would be E double prime on that, and this is A double prime for this circle. And let's go ahead and make this vector blue like so. Okay, so my new series of shapes looks like that. And part C says, did the size and shape of either figure change after performing the sequence of translations? Once again, no, it didn't. Hopefully we're convinced by now that the sequence of translations does not change these figures. Okay, so why would we want to do a sequence of transformations anyway? Well, there are times when we want to map a figure to another figure. And we're going to be doing that to prove congruency, to prove that two figures are congruent. Sometimes we actually want to map a figure back onto itself. And so let's look at what that would look like. So here I have figure D right here. I'm going to trace it, and I'm going to translate it along vector AB right here. Oops. Translate it along vector AB. That's kind of a long way. Okay, so I'm going to slide it over until my beginning point here matches the ending point of the vector, and there's my translated image. And let's go ahead and do it. We'll do it in blue. Okay, so it just moved it straight over like so. Okay, now if I wanted to map, so this would be D prime. Now what if I wanted to map D prime right back onto itself? What vector would I use? Okay, I used vector AB to get it from here to here, vector AB. So vector, what if I used vector BA? Vector BA should take it back where it started. So we'll look at that. So this time, let's get on here. So this time I've got I'm going to start with my translated figure. I'm going to translate it along vector BA this time, which means I'm going to take point B and move it to A. Whoops, I've got to trace my vector. Right, like that. And I'm going to move it along here. And it moves it right back on if I, with a little bit more precision, it would be exact, right? So that's something that is useful in doing these sequencing of translations as well, is we want to do that sometimes. Okay, let's look at exercise 5. And we're just going to talk through this. I think we can do this pretty quickly. Look at exercise 5. Here's the diagram, and I'll bring the picture, the question here. The picture shows the translation of circle A along vector CD. Moved it down and to the right. Down, over, and like that. Name the vector that will map the image of A. This is the image of A back onto itself. So what vector would do that? So think about that. Pause it if you need to. Okay, so if CD moved it down, vector DC from here to here should move it back. Okay, and you can try it. You can try it if you need to. I'm not going to do it on the video. So if a figure is translated along vector QR, what translation takes that figure back to its original location? Pause if you need to. But the opposite vector would do that, right? It would be vector RQ.